In machine learning, we try to predict the future. In statistics, we focus more on explanations of events. We also try to predict the future, but in statistics, we also have the exploratory phase. In machine learning, when we try to predict something, for example, if you implemented a feature and you want to know how successful it's going to be, this can be a use case for prediction. Another case could be if we have a list of diets of people, then we want to predict their weight based on their height or their BMI, based on their diet and geographical place where they live. So if we already have a list of people that have had this diet and we want to predict their future weight, this is called supervised learning. Why supervised? Because we are given a list of inputs and outputs. So it's someone comes and says, here is the input, here is the output, now predict another output for a new input. In unsupervised, we don't get the output, we only get the inputs, and we don't have this correlation in between the output and the input in order to learn from it. So we are just trying to understand what is the structure of the input. So the two broad categories of machine learning are supervised and unsupervised, and the supervised itself is divided into two additional categories. One is classification and another is regression. Classification, as it sounds, is classes. We have a class of images that represent documents. This is a class, 1 or 0, but it does not need to be 1 or 0. Let's say we are trying to learn automatically what is the color of something or what is the shape of something. So it is something specific. It's either a hat or a chair or a cat. In regression, we are trying to predict something more like a real value, a real number, or a vector. So it's something continuous that we are trying to predict. So regression, classification are two subcategories of supervised machine learning. And in the supervised, we have classification and regression. Why is classification and regression only in the supervised and not in the unsupervised? Because in the supervised, we are trying to predict and not just learn the structure. When we are trying to predict in the supervised, we can predict two major categories of things. One is the classification, which is a specific category, and another is regression, which is a real value. Linear regression is a specific kind of regression, which is a specific line where you're giving multiple dots on XY axis, and we're trying to find the line of prediction, where if someone gives us a new X, we'll be able to predict the new Y. The general buzzwords in machine learning are the loss function, which we are trying to minimize. We use calculus in order to minimize the loss function, training and test sets, hyperparameters, overfitting, underfitting, regularization, generalization, linear regression, neural nets, support vector machines, and more. So these are the general buzzwords. And they repeat. It does not mean that if we do one kind of machine learning algorithm, we won't have hyperparameters, generalization. We would have those almost in all machine learning algorithms. Hyperparameters, underfitting, overfitting, regularization, generalization, and validation, cross-validation. So to sum up, the brief introduction to machine learning. In machine learning, we focus on actual either prediction or learning what is the structure and the shape of the inputs. If we are trying to predict, this usually happens with supervised learning, where we get a connection in between inputs and outputs, and then we need to predict a new output. In unsupervised, we are generally trying to understand clusters of the data. This could also be some kind of prediction if we get a new dot and we need to understand in which cluster is it, which kind of prediction. And then the supervised is divided into two, classification and regression. What are the differences, or what is regression? Regression is more of a real value, an actual number, a real number, 1 dot pi. Let's take pi number. Pi number is a real number. And so this is the regression, and the classification is the reverse. It's a specific category of thing like blue, red, cat, dog. This is classification.